I mean, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that how can Donald Trump, guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics.
Question, but I do want to talk a little bit about Trump, though I totally agree with you about the Democratic stuff. How the hell did Donald Trump figure out that the mainstream media is the fringe and the fringe is now the mainstream? How the hell did Donald Trump figure out? I mean, Joe Rogan is obvious, right? Like, we knew the guy had a big audience. It's not like we were like stunned, but like, how the hell was he, the 78-year-old guy who doesn't even have a computer and still like writes handwritten notes? How did he become the guy who cracked the code on, to your point, running a cultural, I don't even want to say campaign, running
it was a movement.
Look, heading a cultural movement versus a campaign.
Every one of your people knows Elon. Listen. Yeah. So I mean, everybody keeps, I mean, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that how can Donald Trump, guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
The popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary.
You're totally right. I remember looking, this was like a week before the election, and it was like they had like made up, and by the way, we haven't even talked about the memes and how well they do on the internet and all that sharing, but it was like this picture of RFK Jr., Dana White, Trump, and Tulsi Gabbard. And it was like,
Joe Rogan, all former Democrats.
And it was like, this is the Republican Party. And I was like, no shit. Like, that's a coalition where you're like, okay, that's something. Like, it's to your point. It's got a little something for a lot of different people. And we're still looking at it as like moderate versus conservative, Republican versus Democrat. You know what I mean? It's like all that stuff.
Listen, when you're dealing with omni crisis, everything starts to kind of come apart. All of the old conventional ways of, I hope you can hear me.
I got you.
All of the conventional ways of thinking and seeing or whatever have to be challenged. And what you have is everybody's a little Donald Trump. He's like a big dummy. He's a bunch of idiots around him. That's just a lie. It's not true. He's not a big dummy. He doesn't have a bunch of idiots around him. Just because we don't understand it doesn't mean he's dumb. We don't understand it. That means that we're dumb. Like the first.
So true. You're so right. Well said.
The first thing that we have to acknowledge is we got beat by something that we don't understand. And all these liberals wandering around and going, oh, I just don't understand. Well, maybe because you're dumb and he's smart. Try that on. Because then suddenly you're going to have lenses to say, how is he smart? How am I dumb? Not I know he's dumb. Why are these voters also dumb?
That's the thing that I see still to this day. The explanation from the left is, not everybody, certainly not you, but so much of the explanation is, well, I mean, these people are just stupid. And I'm like, man, that's not going to work. That's like, even if you think that's not a political message. You 77 million people are stupid.
But what we did notice is our party also has a fatal flaw. We're also hypocritical in a different way. We're supposed to be the party of FDR, the party of working people, the party of everyday folks. But also, if you don't eat a bunch of kale, go to yoga classes, and have a college degree, you can't come to these meetings because you're going to say something wrong and get corrected and be humiliated.
Exactly right.
So the elitism in this working people's party blew us up. And it is persistent. It's always that we're smart and Trump is dumb. It's always that our voters are good and his voters are bad. It's elitism. It's arrogance. And how does it show up? It showed up with this despicable bunch of data dummies that ran this campaign into the ground. You couldn't talk around Kamala. I know Kamala. I love Kamala. I'm talking about her campaign. You couldn't tell them anything. You couldn't talk to them. You couldn't even find them. And when you did, they knew everything and they had their data. And I tell these people, you got data. Data don't vote.
Nope.
Data vote.
And you can make
Real
data
people.
say anything. I
You can
mean,
make
we know
data.
that. You can
So
pick a number that tells you what you want it to tell you.
and so listen, until we quit insulting Trump and Trump voters. Look, Trump's going to do some terrible stuff. We'll fight him. But until we stop assuming he's an idiot and we just are waiting for everybody else to realize it and realize we're the idiots, we lost. We lost. So we have to go back in the locker room and we have to sit down and figure out how in the hell did we get beat? And when you look at it closely, man, it's the arrogance, it's the elitism, it's not respecting people, it's not listening to people, it's not assuming that the voters are smarter than us, that they're our bosses and we're supposed to listen to them. We're not their professors, they're our bosses. And so just the whole thing has gotten way off. And I'm going to tell you, we'll have another chance because fundamentally we had a change election 2016.
Mm-hmm.
We had a change election 2020. We had a change election 2024. We'll probably have another change election. I'm not saying that these guys know how to govern. And I'm not saying they're going to address the actual problems of real people. But what I am saying is, um, it anybody who tells you that it's no big deal that we lost literally everything you can lose in American politics. If you rewind the tape, and 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, they were saying if we lose, it's fascism. They are wrong both directions and should be never listened to again. They were wrong. They overreacted to the threat of Trump and set their hair on fire, and now it's all fine. That means you have no credibility on
Right.
either side and should never be listened to again.
What do you
There's a lot of stuff that's happening in ordinary people, everyday people's lives, and half of the reason people like Donald Trump is that he just acknowledges that people are hurting and mad, and at least argues that he can fix it. Um, I think that Trump may do some things that we objectively might like. Um, I'm not sure that Doge is going to be 100% bad. There's going to be a
know?
lot that will be bad, but don't forget Al Gore and Bill Clinton were trying to cut back on federal bureaucracy. In the 90s.
Right. I was going to say cutting back on federal bureaucracy is both parties have championed that many times over. It's not like it's a new thing.
Yeah. And so, so there's some stuff, might make some sense. Pete here is talking about Fetterman. I think Fetterman has probably got a big role for the future of the party going forward. So I don't know what Trump is going to do. If he does the worst stuff that he says, then we'll have to respond to it. If he does some stuff that makes sense, then there may be things that we can try to nudge him on and try to get a little bit better. But all I know is there is a freedom that comes in not having to run anything. It gives you a chance to dream again. Don't forget, we spend a lot of time defending shit that we don't even like. How in the hell is Van Jones the number one defender of the FBI? Like, you know what I mean? Like, Trump has got us all so crazy that we
Yes.
spend an inordinate amount of time defending a status quo that our base can't stand and most of us don't even like. And so now, guess what? We failed in our defense. It is now theirs. So there's a chance to dream again.
Yeah.
What do we actually want? What do we actually believe? Who do we think is actually the problem? Is it corporations? Is it the right wing? Is it culture? Is it TikTok? Is it a spiritual crisis? Can we take some time as a party to figure out who we are
Mm.
and then humbly present ourselves to people who might need a champion or who might need somebody to stick up for them? And stop focusing on Trump. The Republicans have stopped being a conservative party. They're now just an anti-liberal party. They just like beating us up. And we've stopped being a progressive party and we've just become an anti-Trump coalition and
Mm-hmm.
failed anti-Trump coalition. And so I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be a part of that. I want people to have better lives. And I don't know that I have the ideas that can help them anymore. So I need to go and listen to people and understand what they're going through and what their problem is, and and then from there, maybe we can co-author something that makes sense.